Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to continue with day 3 of writing a book review for young learners. So if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to my channel so you get all the videos for this genre of writing. And you can find this lesson and all my other academic writing lessons in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, and that's linked in the video description. So let's go ahead and let's get started. And we're going to talk about sentence fluency and combining sentences in today's lesson. So remember, we've been talking with our students about their favorite book, and we've been getting them to write a very simple book review. And we said this is aimed at students in 2nd to 3rd grade, so 7 or 8-year-olds roughly. And we said that a good book review includes an introductory sentence, which includes the title of the book and the author if we know it. We want to give a short summary of the text. We want to give our opinion, why we feel that way. And then we want to make a suggestion as to who we think would like that book. And we've got our mentor text here, and we can see that it's broken up with our introductory sentence. This particular text I read with my students, we didn't know the author, so that's okay. It's got a short summary of the book. And in our last video, we talked about using sequence words to get students to identify the beginning, the middle, and the end of the text. This doesn't have to be an extensive summary. Then we want to give our opinion. If it's our favorite book, hopefully we loved it or we really liked it, and why. And we talked about cause and effect words. And finally, we want to give a suggestion. Who do we think is also going to enjoy this book? Or maybe who shouldn't read this book? That's okay too. So today we're going to talk about sentence fluency. And what I like to do is present this paragraph here on the right. And I want my students to identify what the problem is with this paragraph. I liked the book. It was fun to read. The book had interesting information. It taught me about desert animals. I liked Tim. Tim didn't want to go to the desert. Tim learned about the desert. He liked it. So it's really short. It's very choppy. The sentences are just bup, 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 bup. So yeah, it's not exciting. It's too choppy, too boring to read. And then conversely, we've got this next paragraph. So let's take a look at what's wrong with this. I liked the book because it was fun to read and had interesting information about desert animals. And I liked the main character, Tim, who didn't want to go to the desert, but liked the desert after he learned about it. So it's not a paragraph, it's just one giant long run-on sentence. So we've got to teach our students to use a good mix of both shorter sentences and longer sentences. So again, I think this is great if we're doing, I used to do my writing workshop always in the afternoons. I do my centers in the morning. And if I knew I was going to do this in the afternoon, I would have centers work on this in the morning to prep my students for it so they're prepared for their writing. So this is a great opportunity to build and work on complex or compound sentences. So I want my students to see that we want to use a good mix of shorter and longer sentences. It makes our writing interesting to read. It makes it more fluent. I liked the book, A Visit to the Desert, because it was fun to read. The book had a lot of interesting information about desert animals. I liked the main character, Tim. At first, Tim didn't want to go to the desert. Tim learned about the desert, its animals, and how they survive. At the end of the story, he really enjoyed the desert. So, wow, that's terrific. What a great summary. We really mixed our shorter and our longer sentences. So we've got some compound and complex sentences in there. So that's just terrific. So I like to work through a sentence level exercise where my students get the opportunity to combine sentences using these words here, and, but, because, so, since, or. Okay, and they've got a word that they're going to use to join these two sentences, and they've got two simple sentences that they are going to combine. And finally, I like to talk about different types of sentences. Most of our students are using declarative sentences, statements, but I also like to talk to my students, depending on how old they are, especially if you're working with third graders, I've already started talking about strategies for writing a great introduction and drawing our reader into the text. So they might be starting that text with a question. They might be including an exclamation. This was the best book I ever read. So getting them to include a variety of sentences in that book review helps to make it more enjoyable to read for their audience. So along with this, I ask my students to do some peer review, and I include a very simple graphic organizer where they're asked to review their partner's work and to make one or two suggestions at least as to how they can improve that work. So thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to subscribe so you get all the videos in this genre of writing, as well as all of my academic writing videos. And I'll see you in our next lesson at the Language Arts Gallery.